Hello, today I will be doing a video on the data class map. For this demonstration, I will be using some information from previous videos, and I'm just going to be going into more detail about the data class map in this video. So let's go ahead and get started. The data class map helps identify and actually does the searching of our data and maps it out so that way it's easier for us to see and recognize through our own eyes. The data class map searches through the data and identifies potential PII based on your data class matchers, which again are these, which we discussed in a previous video. That can include both, location and data matchers. And as you know, these data classes have these rules applied to them in what kind of masking or other operation you want done. So to actually get to the data class map, there's a few options when we can do so. So we can either go up here to this discovery menu, we could drop down, and we can select from a list of an empty data class map, a directory data class search, or a schema data class search. But there is an easier way. So if you go down to your data source explorer, you can go ahead and look at the schemas section here. And I want to find PII inside of the bank schema. And as you can see, the bank schema has a bunch of different tables here. So we'll just go ahead and right click the bank schema itself. We'll go to IRI and a schema data class search. And I can choose to include a graphical.html report. And this will just give you a visual representation of what's happening. We'll leave everything else as default. We'll click next. And this is the reason we went over here into our data source explorer, because our connection profile is already set up and our schema selection is already selected for us. If we wanted to change it, we could simply do so right here. And same thing with our schema selection. We can click or unclick. We'll click next. And here we can choose to exclude tables. And I actually want to exclude some. So I'll just do trxn for a name and the regex pattern of trxn and the test sample. You can see here it's matching on these tables that I don't want here in the bottom left, and you can see it matches on both of them. So I'll click OK. I'll click next. And here inside of the data classification setup, inside of our testing 2 project folder, which we did in the previous video, it has these data classes with rules that we want applied to them. And here you can either tick or untick which data classes you want to use. So for instance, if you had social security numbers in here but you didn't want to mask them, you could just untick that and it would no longer apply a masking rule or search for that PII. We'll just go ahead and leave it as is, and we'll just leave the scan the first X amount of records as it is. This matching threshold pretty much means that when you're searching through the data, the percentage chance in which it matches on the data inside of like a particular column, it needs to meet at least 90% in order for it to show up and say that you want the masking to be done. So we'll go ahead and select finish. And over here on the left hand side, you can see that we now have a new schema data class search folder and an IRI library.dataclassMap. So with this data class map open, which it is right here, you can see over here we have a data class map and a new SQL Server bank, which is our database, and customer, which is going to be our table. But if you remember, we actually searched on 3 of these tables. So we searched on account, branch, and customer because we did the whole schema. We filtered out the TRXN tables. But when you go ahead and take a look at the data inside, there's actually no data that matches on any information that we plugged in to our data classes. So there's no matchers that matched on any of this information in either of these tables. And that's why we only have one singular bit of information up here, because it only found PII inside of this customer's table. So taking a look inside of the data class map, there's a little bit of information here. So we can filter out if we would like. And inside of this table right here, we can see the column. This is the column name. We can see the data class provided with the column, the percentage of it matching, and the field rule that is applied alongside the data class. So here we can visually represent exactly what's happening and what's going to be going on when we do a job or a masking job. So when we look at full name, you can see here it highlighted it for us. And the data class that I matched on was names, full name, and then full name because remember, this was here inside of this and it's right there, just like that, right? And it has a field rule of FPE, phone number, again, same thing, email, and social, which has our redaction, which we included. So a few things that we can actually do here that I can show you is I want to go ahead and just, let's say that for this field rule, right, of full name, if we don't want to do the FPE, we actually want to do the pseudo name replace, we could just go ahead and change that right there, right? So it allows us more control, even if the rule is applied differently over here, which it is, as you can see, right? And we want to actually do the pseudo name replace. Phone number, FPE is fine, email FPE is fine, and social redaction is good. But let's say that we want the date that you became a member, you want that to be encrypted. You could just come over here, select the FPE, and the percentage matching would then change to a user defined instead of matching on a name. And when it says name, it essentially means a column name. So this is saying that we added this rule here, but I'll just go ahead and remove that. One thing I do want to show you is we'll head back over into our IRI library, or our DC lib. And this is located inside of all the same folder, by the way, just so you are aware. And let's say for the social, as you can see, we have both a location and data matcher, right? I'll go ahead and just show you the information here. So you can see just like that. Oh, actually, I'm sorry, we'll do phone number. Phone number is a little bit easier to see. So I actually created a special data pattern or a data matcher, which is just a regex pattern that matches on this exact phone number. And as you can see in our data class, it matched on the name, which is the column name. But if this wasn't here, you can go ahead and just remove this, which I'll do just like that. We can go back to our IRI library, and it's still showing that it was matched by the name. That's because we actually have to come up here to the sync with this DCR lib, and we'll click this. We'll click finish, and as you can see here, it has now changed from name to 100%. So essentially what this means is it's now matching on the data that is inside, and it matched 100% of the time on the data that is inside this phone number column. And again, it's going to be applying that FPE. So same thing would happen if we wanted to go to names here, full name, and change this default rule to the pseudo name replace, right? We could just come back over here, and as you can see, it changed back when we resynced it. Let's just sync it one last time. And now everything looks as if we would want it to. So we're doing the pseudo name replace, and it's matching on the data inside the phone number column. A few other things that we can actually do over here is we can add a database source. So to do that, you would just click this little icon of the drum. You would go to the connection that you would want. You would then select the table which you would like. So this is the mask bank schema, and then the customer table. And then you would just click finish. And as you can see here, since there actually is PII found within this table, right? It's going to populate and show up here. But we don't want that, so we'll just go ahead and delete that. We'll click yes. And we still have our regular bank customer. Next thing you can do is add a file source. So again, this is not a database, this would be a file. You would click add data source, you would browse to where it is, and let's just go ahead and just do something relatively simple here. And as you can see here, sections names underscore female first has no metadata. Therefore, you would have to discover the metadata and then just roll through this wizard. You would click yes, and then we'll click next. As you can see here, this isn't exactly what we're looking for, so we'll just change this format from fixed to delimited, and we'll give it a separator of a comma since it was asking for it up top here. We'll click next, and this looks a lot better because there's only one field and because it's only one column. But we'll just back out of that for now. And then you already saw me use the delete button, and then there's an import and an export if we have a DC map from a different project that we want to import in here, or we want to export this DC map itself. So let's go ahead and put this all into practice real quick. So we'll go ahead and just do a really quick FieldShield job, a new dataClassMap database masking job, because we're using our DC map, which we just created, and we're doing a database masking job. So I'll just go ahead and put it to a flat file just so it's easier to see. We'll click next, and then we'll use all these data classes. These data classes correlate exactly with these here inside of our DC map. As you can see, only the email, names, phone number, and social are appearing, even though there's more columns in here. That's because the DC map matched on those specifically. We'll click next, and our data source is going to be the bank.customer, and we'll click finish. Right over here, it's just a little bit more information. We do have a separate video talking about our SourceEL scripts as well as doing a FieldShield job. So if you wanted to take a look at that, you can. But for now, we'll just go ahead and run this, run as an IRI job. And we now have a new file, which hopefully, I'll put this side by side for you so you can see. Right, we'll just go ahead and go down the line. So our full name, we're doing a pseudo name replace, which it might not look like anything right now. Right, but you can see here that the full name is in fact very different. Right, moving on to the phone number. Right, and as you can see here, the phone number is in fact format preserved encrypted. Same thing with the email. The email is format preserved encrypted. And finally, the social has been redacted. So hopefully that explains the DC map and how to use it and what it's good for. And thank you.